Jeff Zillgitt, USA Today NBA writer, had a little bit on Jason Kidd today, and he joins us now. What do you make of that story for the New York Post, Jeff, that Jason Kidd was trying to trade Brook Lopez to the Bucks at the end of the season?
I think there's one thing, and Dan, if the NBA really wants to look at it, that they probably should to see what was going on here. I think it's been an interesting timeline, not only the past couple days or through the weekend, but this entire season of how things have transpired between Jason Kidd, the Nets, Billy King, to the point we are right now.
The whole thing of this is one of those unwritten rules, I guess, coaching etiquette, that you don't take another job with a guy who's already in that job. So what do you make of Jason Kidd going to Milwaukee? How did this all play out in the first place?
Well, it starts with one of the co-owners of the Milwaukee Bucks, Mark Lazary, who is a minority shareholder of the Brooklyn Nets, knows Jason Kidd, knew Jason Kidd, and I'm sure these discussions started to take place, to some degree once the Bucks finalized transfer of ownership. And then in terms of, going after someone's job, putting phone calls out to agents and general managers, is the general idea is that if it looks like a coach is going to get fired, it's okay to do your due diligence on it and find out more about the organization, put out feelers. But in a situation where Larry Drew is just starting the second year of a deal, there's no indication that the Bucks want to get rid of him to actively go after it. I'm sure there are people who aren't happy with Jason Kidd, and there are some in the business, probably in the coaching business, who weren't happy that he got the job in Brooklyn to begin with no coaching experience. And here he is, pulling power plays in one city, getting a power play in the other city. And I think he has some fences to mend a little bit within the coaching profession.
Cavs keep Kyrie Irving. Was there debate about giving him a max deal and keeping him?
No, I don't think so at all. Dan Gilbert's been pretty open about that in terms of wanting to keep Kyrie. I do think they're going to need more out of him. This is the next step for him. He's no longer on that rookie deal per se. And, he needs to take, move forward with his game a little bit, and that includes a leadership role. Yeah. That's the one thing. We know what he can do on the court. Can he galvanize a locker room, get that team together? They're building young talent there, have some ability to make some improvement over the next couple seasons, and now it falls on Kyrie's shoulder, and we're going to find out if he's ready for that responsibility.
This opened the door at all for LeBron James?
I don't think it does, Dan. I'm looking at this situation, and if LeBron is intent on winning championships, which I believe he is, I'm not sure Cleveland is the best spot for him at this particular moment. Now, I'm also interested to see what kind of contract LeBron signs when he does. Is it going to be a 4-year deal with another team, or does he even do a 4-year deal with Miami? And when you look at Cleveland, you project this 4 years down the road, what kind of team will they have then? LeBron is going to be in his mid-30s at that point. Then I start to believe that you have a little bit different situation. But right now, if it's about winning championships soonest, I'm not sure Cleveland is the place to go.
He's Jeff Zillgitt, USA Today NBA writer, joining us Dan Patrick Show. Adrian Wojnarowski from Yahoo Sports was on yesterday, and I said, why aren't the Lakers getting free agents? And he said that free agents top tier don't want to go to the Lakers because they look at the infrastructure and say, where are we going to be in 2 years, 3 years? Is that your feeling on this?
I think there's some small truth to that, and obviously Adrian's well plugged in. But that Kobe Bryant deal does handcuff them a whole lot in free agency and the people they can put on that team. I know there's been talk of trying to get a Carmelo or a LeBron, or the slight possibility that you add both of them. But what you have around that, and I think we saw with this year's Miami Heat team, is that you can have those three, and that's fine, but what are you going to put around it to make that team a championship team? And I think people look at that and say, hey, you need to start, as Adrian was putting it, the infrastructure needs to be a little bit more solid. We need to start getting, more Julius Randle types in the building and building from there.
Mitch Kupchak was on yesterday, the Laker GM. He said that they would name a head coach next week, probably in a week, and it's going to be a veteran. This just seems to be the worst-kept secret, that if it's not Byron Scott, who is it?
Yeah, I think what they've been doing, and that's a great question, Dan. They've always been waiting. I don't know if George Karl would have an opportunity at that spot. I know there's going to be some push for Lionel Hollins in a couple different places right now. So those are a couple people I would look at it. But I started thinking on this from the beginning was that let's see what happens in free agency. And if we get one of those players that we're talking about, the top-tier guys, LeBron or Carmelo, can they have some input along with Kobe Bryant and who that next coach is? And I think that's what they're waiting for.
How many stops on the Carmelo tour?
I would say that there'd probably be 4 stops. I have Chicago, Houston, Dallas, and then if we're going to throw New York in the mix as well. And there could be a 15 involved. I think it's going to be too difficult financially under the salary cap to get him down to Miami.
Okay. The likelihood that he will leave New York is what, in your opinion?
15 to 20%.
Yeah. I get this feeling, Jeff, that here we've talked about Kevin Love, all these destinations, the big three opting out, Carmelo on tour. We're rooting for people to move so we have something else to write about or talk about, and it may turn out Kevin Love goes back for his final year, Melo stays in New York, and the big three re-up in Miami.
Very much so, Dan. And the one thing, too, is that, when speaking of Kevin Love in New York, I know that the Knicks are very intent. They don't have any assets to make a deal for him, but in their best-case scenario is that the Timberwolves hold on to Kevin Love as long as possible. Kevin Love refuses to any kind of sign and trade with a new team, and the Knicks would have a shot at him at some point. That's the pie-in-the-sky goal for the Knicks. But I look at Carmelo and the comments he made about, the big picture, and it's just not about next year and taking his kid out of school.
Family.
And you have 5 years, the extra year, the extra $30 million. That stuff is not insignificant to these guys.
Jeff, good to have you on. Hope to have you on again. Thank you.
Thanks, Dan. Appreciate it.
All right, Jeff Zillgitt, USA Today NBA writer.